Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Chasing Edges podcast. I'm your host, Brian Peters. Got an absolute stud on the podcast today, Coach Josh Storms, the Director of Strength and Conditioning at Florida State University. We have a phenomenal conversation. It covers a lot of bases, but it starts with the management of new information and how to separate that out. He categorized it in the world of what's interesting and what's actionable, very emphatic about what's actionable in his program so that he can save his energy, and he uses and relies on his assistants to direct those flows of information, which is a fun conversation. And now we go down rabbit holes of the power of experience and having his guys experience the program and troubleshoot it for him. And that's fun. But then it gets into my favorite part of the conversation, which is absolutely dynamite, is the actual building of the culture, the building of the character of the players, how from freshmen on they identify and develop leaders. They put them in situations where leadership is demanded, or at least starts to on-ramp them into leadership and speaking in front of their teammates and their peers, which is really fun. I like how he organizes his program. I like how he is very meticulous and intuitive about how he developed not only his coaching staff around him, but obviously how he programs. And we get into that, and we finish with that is the true art of programming. What do you look at? Is it foundational? How much sports science? All those things, and that it's truly an art form. And he speaks phenomenally on that. So hope you enjoy. Coach Storms, thanks for joining me, man.
Yeah, man, absolutely. We're fired up to do it.
Dude, I'm pumped to talk to you. For those listeners out there, I've been following Coach Storms for a while on Instagram, and then we got to meet at the Sorenex Summer Strong event this year and had a fun conversation. So I'm excited to dive into all that. But you know the drill a little bit. Where in the world are you chasing edges right now? Where are you learning? Where are you growing?
Right now, it's not an edge as far as what's new, what's out there. That's always present, but it's more so it's our guys. It's diving every day on the leadership aspect of our guys and building the culture and building the team and all those things, all those intangible things you can work on and put guys in position to get reps at to help the overall good of what we're trying to accomplish here. And that's kind of my daily pursuit. And so I have guys on my staff that I depend on to bring me the what's new and educate me and how can we apply those things and whatnot. And that's where I get fired up, listen to your podcast and stuff too, because you have some guys that are really out there trying to truly find those edges of optimization and human performance. I'll hear stuff on here and I'll be like, all right, man, I got to do a little deeper dive into that and see how I can bring that in-house here too. So
let's go. Yeah, that's it. So you kind of got your system built to again, you get new things brought to you, then you're mastering the current structure and the current systems you have in place. Hey.
Yeah. So we find, there's, especially now in the last few years, the human optimization performances has accelerated so much with the technology and all those things. There's just more. And if I try to keep up on all that, I'm not keeping up on any of it as far as the day-to-day what's in-house. So my guys can dive into that because I'll get pulled a lot of different ways here just in my role. So when those guys can bring me stuff hey, coach, I saw this is interesting. We're gonna learn more about this. Then I can kind of then apply the filter to it. Does this fit into the philosophy of what we're doing? Is this something that we can implement now? Is it something to wait for the future? And if we do it, the big question I was asking myself, is this interesting or is it actionable? And if it's just interesting, that's cool. But day to day here, it's got to be actionable.
Oh, dude, that's phenomenal. I mean, yeah, that's you can't chase every shiny thing or every new technology or wearable and that kind of thing. So I really like that stance. But you kind of touched on it briefly just with how you're structured already, because we've had the opportunity to talk a little bit about your background and kind of the scenario you're in now going into year 3 down at Florida State. But can you give a little background real quick, and then we'll start diving into the culture and everything, all the magic you're doing down there.
Sounds good. I like just background in a nutshell. So, played football at the University of South Dakota, played tight end there, short, injury plagued, unremarkable career. And by the time it came to an end, I realized I'd spent way more time building and preparing to play the game than I ever got to spend playing the game. And I knew that I always want to stay involved with the game, but I knew I didn't want to be a ball coach. And then it became apparent, just through the way my process went, this is what I love. This is the part of that I was most passionate about, that got me the most excited, all that kind of stuff. So I knew as I was wrapping up there, that's what I wanted to go into. And at that time, it's a D2 school. Our strength coach was also our D-line coach. And so you didn't have the true program like guys experience now. And so I didn't have a whole lot of guidance going into it. coach said, "Oh, you want to do this? Well, here's your path you got to follow." Like I was just trying to figure the shit out. And so I sent out, I needed to do an internship to graduate. I sent out 2 resumes, one to the Vikings, one to the Chiefs. And this would have been in like late 99, early 2000. And interviewed for both those, got offered both of them. Day after Christmas, took the internship with the Vikings, was still in school, went up, paid my way up there during spring break, worked OTA, stayed like an extended stay hotel, went back, finished that semester, went up there to work the off-season program through the season of 2000. So that was Coach Dennis Green's last season in Minnesota. From there, that staff got fired at the end of that year, so I learned a lot about coaching real quick early on in my journey. Knew I still need to go to grad school, though, and do those things. Had searched out a bunch of different places, visited some spots, and ended up going to UNLV. And the reason I went there was we had quite a few of our guys that spent their off seasons training with Mark Philippi there. Remember that name, world's strongest man competitor, all those things. And so I basically went there just off of those guys' recommendation. And there was a school where I knew I could get the experience in the weight room that also had a grad program that was related. And so literally wife and I got married. 5 days later, we moved to Vegas. She doesn't have a job. I don't have a job other than one phone call I had with Mark that said, "Yeah, you can come work in the weight room if you want to come help out." And so no one told us, "Hey, this is a bad fucking idea. You guys don't have a plan." That was our plan. Everyone's like, "Yeah, it'll work." And so we move out there, and like that started it there. And it's a whole story of what it took there to finally get in and with the school and the being in the weight room from an intern to a paid position there. Spent about 2.5 years there in all. Awesome experience because like being around Mark, I got to be around Ed Cohn. I got to be around Magnus Samuelson, all those top level strongmen in the world. And so I got exposed to a ton just by dumb luck early on in my career. From there, Joe Ken hired me at Arizona State in 2005. I spent 11 seasons there. So I got really lucky, man. That time in most guys' career, they're making a move every 2 years to the next spot to learn more and build their network. I did that all out of the same office. So I was there for 4 ADs, 3 head coaches, 3 bosses, was able to get retained as staffs got fired, elevated my position. Finally, Todd Graham's staff came in 2012, was the top assistant for football at that time. Met Coach Norvell there in 2012, and him and I have been together now for 10 years now. And so from there, we left there in after the 2015 season, went to Memphis, spent 4 seasons there, played for 3 conference championships, won 1. And then that opened up the opportunity to come here to Florida State. So now this is going into year 3 here.
Hell yeah. And how's it been down there the first 3 years?
It's been awesome. It's been a new challenge because when we got to Memphis, the staff prior to us moved on because that school had experienced an unprecedented level of success in program history. So when we got there, the pressure was, "Hey, this is the best it's ever been. What are you guys going to do?" And we were lucky. We had some really good players. We had a great staff. We were able to elevate that program even beyond where it'd been. Ultimately playing in a New Year's Six game, played in the Cotton Bowl right before we came here. And then coming here to Florida State was the complete other side of that coin. We were coming here at an unprecedented low point in program history.
Quick break for a shout out to our partner, The Breath Belt. You can find them at The Breath Belt on Instagram or thebreathbelt.com online. And there you can purchase a breath belt. It's a diaphragmatic trainer, great for turning on and activating the psoas, the abs, the QL, the low back, all the above. It's a great breathing tool to learn how to cue yourself into becoming a 360 breather, which is one of the hardest things, but that's how you want to create and generate both respiratory strength and the ability to align and stabilize the spine. It's a great tool to use while you're driving in preparation for workouts, all the above. It's endorsed by some of the biggest dogs in the industry, the RPR system, Sorenex, Rogue Fitness, Kabuki Strength. It's a tool that you can use at any time. I love it. I use it with my athletes, but they've given us this awesome code, EDGES20, EDGES, all caps 20, and you can get 20% off the product, which is massive. So hopefully you check them out, thebreathbelt.com, THEBREATHBELT.com. Check them out, plug in the code, and enjoy.
So it was truly a ground up rebuild. For a lot of our guys here, we were their 3rd staff. So there's a whole challenge that comes with that when you have guys like, man, I've been through this changeover game before, so you really had to get to a lot of like guys trying to keep a staff at arm's length, trying to figure out what was really going on and, build that opportunity for guys to trust you, and I'm always big on, I don't want a guy to follow me or let me lead them or trust me just based upon my title, my position. I told our guys here, man, just give me the opportunity to go to work for you. Give me the opportunity to show you that I'm trustworthy. Give me the opportunity to show you that I can help you. And we can go from there day by day. And that's what it's just been a day by day process ever since. And, kind of like we've talked about earlier, like we're getting to that point now where things are starting to actualize and you're starting to turn the corner. You're starting to see and feel real, true progress in where we're at.
Yeah, that's dynamite. Just that approach, because like I also think I don't want to say people sleep on the effect of a strength coach and a college program in particular. I think the time involved around the players, and I'm just like you. I love the weight room as much as I love the game of football, and I think that even kind of caused some friction in myself at times. But like I love training. I knew what I put in is what I got out, and it's like that simple and clean. So that like that's why I loved it. But like as you, I guess, progress through this kind of time with your players, because I think, again, I kind of skipped my point, but the point is being that the massive impact that strength coaches have, the time is initially spent, it's on character building, it's on work ethic, it's on literally everything that has to translate to the field. So strength, speed, power, explosion, functional movement, all those things. And you guys, this is a guess, but I just remember being around my strength coach way more than like my actual position coach over the span of the years. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, no, I mean, it really is. And, there's some rules that have changed since I played, even since you've played, where like the coaches do have a little more access to those guys throughout the year to do some football stuff. But at the end of the day, though, those guys in the course of their 3, 4, 5 years here will spend probably twice as much time with myself and my staff in this room or on the field as they ever do with the football end of things, and that's where that becomes my job, to be able to instill coaches' vision and culture into these guys, doing it my way, so like to me, like, we're teachers and educators more than we are anything else. We have the greatest classroom in the world to build the culture of a team, to build the leadership on a team, to do those things just because of the time and the access. And it's different. The weight room is different. I mean, firsthand, like it's a meritocracy, right? I don't care if you're a future first round draft pick or you're our lowest walk on, you're number 127 on the team. Like, you're just judged in here by what's your character? What do you bring to the table every day? When you show up to work, who are you? Are you that guy consistently? And that's what's based on, because I don't affect playing time. I don't affect any of that. You know what I'm saying? And so we can judge guys and develop guys on a totally different like set of, parameters than the ball coach. Because the ball coach is like, well, shit, that's my best guy. So I got to do certain things with this guy to keep him in that position. Whereas for me, I could care less. If you're a guy that shows up every day and kicks ass, I don't care if you're the worst player on this team, but you're a great guy in here, I can find ways to help that guy lead guys around him and help him make those elite level players better because of his presence too. And we always talk about like, you talk about leadership a lot, but, guys view leaders as the guy that can be in front of the team and the guy that's the team leader. And everybody can lead. Now, maybe I'm not a guy that can lead the team because that's not my position by age or by role on the field or whatever, but I can probably lead the guy next to me. And if I can do that, maybe eventually I can lead my rack, or I can eventually lead my position group. If I can lead my position group, maybe eventually I can lead my side of the ball. If I can lead my side of the ball, maybe someday I am that guy that can step in front of the team and set the ship right when things are tough. But it's reps. I mean, if you got a guy who wants to squat 500 pounds, you don't just go throw 500 on and see what happens, right? It's time and repetition and work and perfecting all those things it takes to be able to hit that moment where you can hit that big number. Leadership is no different than that. It starts with reps, easy reps, light reps, repetition, harder situations, tougher circumstances, maybe with a more elite guy, or a tougher situation, to eventually that guy who was just the guy next to him becomes a guy that can lead for real. What we all think about as your prototypical leader.
Ooh, dude, I freaking love that. I love just tangibilizing the intangible. Like, leadership, it can be seen as intangible at times if you don't approach it as something that has a metric, or that a situation's more difficult and you can place them in that. Because I'm all like, anytime I speak leadership or people ask me about my time in the NFL or college or whatever it ends up being, like the biggest thing first, you got to be able to lead yourself. So you lead yourself, and then you can move on. And I almost, like, in the NFL, I think I almost like tried to save too many people or tried to lead too many people, when really, like, a lot of the times, like, if you're on the right path, like, that'll magnetize the guys to you. Is that kind of how you see it work with your guys? Do you see that same problem where guys try and do too much leadership and not enough like self-management? Do you see any of that?
Oh, 100%, because guys are never taught leadership when they're younger, right? Usually most of our guys think they're leaders because they're the best player at their high school. So you're the leader, you're the captain. Well, maybe you don't have a single leadership quality about you other than the fact that you're the best player. That doesn't necessarily make you a leader, right? It makes you the most. It may make you influential or make you prominent, but it doesn't make you a leader. And so it does. It starts at the foundation of like, can this guy take care of himself? Can this guy be dialed in every day when he comes to work? I mean, can he come to work on time when he's supposed to be there, where he's supposed to be, right? And well, okay, if you can do that, okay, now can you bring great effort? Can you perform at a high level? Can you do it every day? When things get hard, can you handle yourself in those hard moments? Okay, good, you can do that. Now, how about that guy next to you? Can you help him do that? And then even the hardest thing about being a leader is even leaders need led sometimes. And it's okay when a coach leads that guy because they expect that. But ultimately, if you want powerful leadership on a team, that's got to come from his guy next to him. Because I can try to lead a guy all I want, but guess what? I don't live with him. I'm not the one that gave him a ride to practice, right? I'm not the one that's hanging out with him on the weekend. When you get led by those guys, it's a lot harder, right? It's harder to take the moment of conflict when I know if I'm going to be the one to try to lead right now, not knowing which way this is going to shake out. Will this be conflict or will this be okay? But like, it's getting guys over the hump to take that step. And then if you get a guy that can consistently take that step, that's great. But sooner or later, that guy is going to come into a moment where he needs led. He's having a shitty day. He's stressed out about something. He's going through a hard time. Or maybe just what we're doing today or how practice goes is a particularly rough day for him. And now all of a sudden that guy that maybe he's been leading, he now needs to be led by that guy. And that's probably the biggest hurdle is getting guys to open up to that. Lots of guys are willing to jump up and be that cheerleader when things are going good and be like, oh, I'm a leader. No, you're not. That's anybody can lead in that moment. That's like running out of the tunnel before the game. Everybody can do that. How about during the fourth quarter when you're tired as fuck and everything is on the line? Can you lead then? That's a leader, right? And so it's just trying to put guys in those positions. And we start so small with it. Like we'll identify guys in our freshman group when they first get here who kind of have some of those qualities about them. And we'll immediately start trying to put them in positions. And it might be really simple. It could be like in the warm-up. Hey, you're the one that's going to cadence this movement in the warm-up. That way, that just gets them used to speaking loud and projecting in front of guys. And it gets guys used to looking to that guy and listening to that guy. There you go. There's step one. Right?
Yeah, I was wondering
and
if
then,
you had systems
and then build from there. Yeah, it's not even really systems. It's more like situational, and it's as opportunities arise. Even with our older guys on our team, we have a leadership council of 18 guys. Well, those are guys like the team is voted on, and we kind of don't put that out there. It's like, hey, these are your team leaders. We kind of want like, hey, who are the most influential guys in this team? Okay. Because sometimes there'll be guys that pop up on that list and it's like, whoa, I didn't see that guy coming. That's important for me to know. Because now I got to make sure I'm putting that guy in positions to influence his teammates the right way when the time comes, because they already view him that way. All right, man, I better prop that guy up in a way to help put him in situations where he has to do that. Right, to get him in situations where they're going to look to him for how he falls out of a situation to be able to follow his lead. And some guys it's apparent. Some guys, this guy is a team leader. This guy is influential. He naturally does it. Okay, good. I just got to make sure that we always kind of put him in spots where we can do that. It's those guys that you don't know about are the ones you really got to help bring along. And then it's the guys that are just fill out the rest of the roster and put them in positions to do that in small ways. Even if I can get a guy who is he's a lower level walk-on hard worker or whatever. And, we're conditioning and, we do the same stuff everybody else does, man. You can't bend over. You can't put your hands on your hips, just making that choice to do it the hard way. Well, if the guy next to him has his hands on his hips, can he at least take the initiative? Like, yo, man, fix that. Oh, shit, I got you. Okay, cool. That's a moment of leadership. And that wasn't very hard. But if you can do that, you can do more, right? But until you can at least do that, you can't do much more. Because if you're the guy that looks the other way in that moment, there's no way in hell you can step up when shit really is bad. So it's just trying to, like I said, it's small, easy leadership reps to lead that into the big stuff that's to come.
No, that's awesome, because I mean, obviously you look for those things, and like as a player, it, and I think it's hard for coaches to see it sometimes too. And I like that you take into account like the off the field relationships and who's driving who, like, cause like that is a massive influence, because guys care about what their peers think, or again, like that's why some guys, when leadership moments arise, they won't say that to a friend, but like that's how you start to separate those leaders. And I really like that approach, because like, again, like leadership is hard. The good ones I think can keep it between the lines and not blur it outside of there. But it's also the system also in place. Like I've been on leadership councils of 8 to 10 guys before, and then we'd always have guys outside of the leadership council that the leadership council knew was leaders, but the coaches didn't know. And we end up having like our own system inside as players where like we had like 2 or 3 other guys outside of that where they were the silent majority. Like they were the guys that like voiced opinions to the leadership council instead of having the leadership council try and do that. So I think 18 is a cool number, especially on a team. You guys have 127 bodies right now.
Yeah, it's a ton. The roster sizes have gotten big, and it was just good. And it's even different now because once upon a time, getting early enrollees was really rare. You get like a kid who's like a prodigy quarterback that his parents shaped his entire life to graduate and start college early. Now, every kid, as soon as they start getting offers as sophomores and juniors, take a couple summer classes, take an extra class, they all graduate early. So this year, we had our entire freshman class here in January, outside of 4 guys. And about the only guys we don't get as mid-years, you might have a guy who's like on the edge academically and he needs that last semester of high school to be able to graduate. Or you might get a guy like, hey, like I've played hoops with these guys my entire career. Like I'm going to play my senior year, and we'll get a couple of those. But for the most part, our entire crew gets here in January. So by the time camp rolls around, those guys have been on campus for leading into almost a year already. And that's such a huge advantage because it just gives us more time with those guys. It gives them an entire extra off season and extra spring ball, so much development time before they actually start when your traditional freshman would start. And that part's been huge for us. So with the leadership though, we bring in the only way we split it, like we're not big in like just because you're an upper level guy, class wise, just because you're a senior doesn't make you a leader. You can be a freshman to be a leader. And so we'll split that. We go 9 upperclassmen and 9 underclassmen.
Nice.
In there. Yeah. Yep. And so, and that helps kind of keep it spread too. Cause those relationships are going to be different. Those young guys may not be as close with all those older guys as they are with each other. Well, that still makes up 50% of your team. So we want that 50% needs a voice too. Plus that 50% is going to be the future as well.
No, I like that a lot. It's a cool little system. As far as like the underclassmen coming in that early, is that pretty much like NCAA wide now, or is Florida State lucky just to have that?
I think some of it might be like it might be year in year out coincidental that all the guys that you happen to take are guys that could do that, but like it's become more and more and more and more. And just talking to other guys other places, like it's become pretty prominent most places. I feel like we had an exceptional amount this last year. And like the portals changed that too, because you may not go sign 25 high school kids now. You might sign 15 high school kids and take 10 transfers. Well, most of those transfers will be here in the wintertime too, Yeah. So we started like the winter program this year. I mean, we had like 30 new faces come January, and that's awesome because it's such an important time of year to get those guys in the fold and bring them along quick. And you're going to depend on those guys, with the way grad transfer is and the way the redshirt rules work now. The idea of bringing guys in and like, okay, this is a redshirt guy for sure. We're going to develop him, and we play our freshmen. Because if you don't, they're all going to get the degrees early, and then that really opens up the door to leave when they're veteran guys in your program. And here as this continues to grow and build, and the player profile of talent raises, you're gonna have more and more guys that have the option to declare for the draft early, right? Well, you better get that talented guy in the field as a freshman then. Otherwise, you're not going to have them very long. So, if our guys are ready, they'll contribute early. And then even now with the redshirt rule, you can still play 4 games in redshirt. So pretty much all of our freshmen who are ready at all are probably going to play in at least 4 games.
Yeah, I said it'd be I don't want to say it's stupid not to play them and utilize the rule and get experience, because with experience being the best teacher. Yeah, I didn't know that was a rule still.
It's been the last couple of years. Last couple of years, that's changed. That's huge for those guys, because as a freshman, if you're a freshman, hey, you're a redshirt. Well, your entire focus changes. There's obviously sometimes some hurt feelings that go with that. Maybe your level of engagement isn't as high as it would have been if you thought you were getting out there to play. Well, now you can still play 4 games. So those kids are still trying to learn. Even if you're just a scout guy, you're still trying to learn our offense. You're trying to learn our defense. Because if we roll out Saturday and we blow somebody out, you have a great chance to probably play a ton of football that day. You have a reasonable way to work yourself into the depth chart because you're a viable option for 4 games. And if you're a guy that plays 4 and you're playing at a higher level of guys, then you're probably going to play that year out.
No, yeah, I like that a lot. And I didn't know that was a deal, just because, I redshirted and I went through that little roller coaster where, like, in training camp, they're saying like you're probably not going to redshirt. You're probably not going to redshirt. And then last minute, it's like, okay, you're redshirting. And I just crashed. I wanted to go home. I traveled back to Ohio all the time from Northwestern. and then we're playing at the Horseshoe too. I'm from Columbus, so like it was just like it was a weird little roller coaster. But then Coach Fitzgerald did a good job, just like kind of taking me under his wing, and same with my strength coach at the time. Like, and that's why I think the strength coaches have such a massive impact, because again, like if you can control the mindset to look at it as an opportunity. I just needed a little push to know it was an opportunity. So by like week 4 or 5, I was just savage in the weight room. Like I knew what the only thing I can control right now is how yoked I am. So I hopped in.
Now you got something new to focus on, something new to chase. And like, it's just, hey, the goal you thought you had has changed. Your new goal is this. And if a kid can kind of get his ego out of the way and see the goals in it, then that helps them, And sometimes those guys, those freshman guys, we'll show them those like career transformation photos and be like, hey, do you want to step on the field looking like this? Or do you want to step on the field looking like that? Well, guys are like, that. Okay, well, cool. That's what this year's for. Why waste it when you still have a little boy's body when you can go out and play a year that you would have had with a grown man's body? And for a lot of those guys, man, that helps a lot. And, with being the strength coach too, like it helps us help guys through those times because, as a football coach, like we all know, you're going to tell your position coach or your coordinator, your head coach, what he wants to hear, because the guy controls your playing time. You're always, any question that coach asks, usually the answer they get is the answer that kid thinks they want to hear.
Yeah,
well,
guaranteed.
As a strength coach, you're not going to get that because you don't have that. You don't have that influence. So those guys will be a little more real with us, And I even get it a little bit now, like transitioned into however many years now as a head guy. I probably even knew more about our guys when I was an assistant because they'll be even more open with you when you're there. Now you become an older guy, you become the boss. Like you're a little more of an extension of the coaching staff, but they'll still be a little more open and a little more frank with me. They will be even with their position coach. And there's some things where, like, as an assistant guy, maybe never would have came to me with, whereas the head guy, like major heavy shit, those guys will come to me with that, with maybe they wouldn't have as an assistant, So you kind of realize like where your blind spots are going to develop. And that's why, like, for me, I have great guys around me on my staff that I trust to pick up those blind spots. Because I may view a kid a certain way and like, no, coach, like, it's really this. Okay, man, I got to take that into account. And that's real because he's seen that. Just because I don't doesn't mean it's not real. And it doesn't mean maybe we don't have a difference of opinion on a guy. But like, we all have our window we look out of, right? Well, my window looks this way. His window looks this way. Our view is slightly different, but it's still an accurate view. So if he tells me, no, I'm seeing this, well, then, man, I got to look at that, good, bad, or otherwise. I may have a bad opinion on a kid. And when my guys, no, man, that kid's been kicking ass. He's great with this, that, whatever. All right, good, man. Maybe I didn't see that because I'm trying to see a lot. And your view is different. So I'm going to take your view as a real thing. So if I can view that, and then now that helps broaden my perspective. And I think anytime you're in a leadership role, man, you got to understand you have blind spots. So you've got to have people that can see those blind spots, that aren't afraid to come to you with what you're potentially missing. And then you got to be open to what their opinion is and what they see to take that into account and how you're going to operate things. And that's been the biggest thing for me is like, I have great guys I can trust to do that. I don't have to second guess.
No, which is great to see because I met some of the guys at the Sornex deal, but just that you guys have that culture and because that's an egoless look at the world, at each player. And I coach a little bit of like personal leadership and things along those lines. And a lot of times you got to get people out of their own perspective or to shift their framework to even understand that. And like, so when I coach it, I start trying to like demystify like the actual word itself, like, because leadership to you and me is vastly different because I've had this whole life experience. So like, and we favor different characteristics in it or we have different scaling of each characteristic. So we're not even talking about leadership the same right now on this podcast, let alone like in 3D when you're in the weight room and that kind of thing. So the ability to, again, accept those opinions and apply them, I think is massive for leadership because people just, I think, get in their own way with like those blinders on who's who's capable of what. And I think, and I think that radiates the culture of the staff, like coaches and like football coaches included, but strength staff radiates to the kids because like also like a massive part and why I respect like what you do and how you do it. Obviously, I respect anybody that's yoked and deadlifting barefoot, big, heavy weight and that kind of thing. So like that gets me hyped up. But that also, I think that is a barrier breaker when players can, one, see that you're a product of the system, and then two, see you still grinding. And it's not like the big body coach or like the old coach or anything along those lines. I think that's really cool. Do you think that helps, or have you like intentionally done any of that stuff?
Yeah, I don't know if it's intentional. I think I always view it like, if you got a guy who is a strength coach or aspires to be a strength coach, but like training isn't a consistent, passionate part of your life, I'm like, well, what brought you to this point to think you want to do this when you don't even do this for yourself? You know what I mean? So I like, that's a quality I look for when I hire guys, for me, it's like a standard interview question, and I'll just slide it into like loose conversation, but like, so like, hey, what'd you do? What'd you do in the workout today? Man, do you know how many times I answer like, well, I'm just kind of getting back into it. Or I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What? Or you'll catch the next one. Hey, what'd you do? Today? Oh, I hit, 3x3 at 9 today. This is the cycle I've been doing. Like, then you can tell they get passionate, get fired up. I'm like, okay, man, like that's an important box to check. It can't be the only box. You can't become a strength coach just because, well, I love to work out and, well, strength coaches in the gym and I like the gym, so I want to go there. Like, it can't just be that, right? But goddamn it, it's got to be partially that though. And because the guys see it. Like, like DJ on my staff, is a 565 raw bencher. And my kids know it because they've seen it. And so like, if he's trying to help a kid with a technique, guess what? They're going to listen. It was just like working for Mark Philippi. Like, he could single-handedly motivate guys simply by standing there and watching him, because he's the world's strongest man. Like, there's some street credibility that comes with that. Like my guys, like, we'll do a lot of the sprint stuff. We'll do some of the conditioning. We'll do all those things. Our guys know that. And honestly, that's part of the reason why I post it. I don't post it because I think I'm strong. I don't post it because I think I'm motivating anybody. I post it because I want my kids to see the consistency. And they'll see stuff and they'll ask about it. They'll talk about it, or they'll be like, man, my strength coach, my old school didn't do that. I'm like, doesn't make me better than him or anything else. But what they see is they see me or they see my staff actually doing it. And like, to me, that matters. It's not the only thing, but man, it's definitely something.
Yeah, I don't think that's a part that anybody that's even remotely responsible for anything in the weight room shouldn't touch as well, because like, again, like you're shaping their life in that, with that modality. So yeah, I've always had a tough time with because I don't believe that like I think we're a mind with a body. So like, obviously the mind can still translate a bunch of information, even though somebody's not in great shape, and they can be the smartest human in the world and tell me like what to put in my body or how to move my body or change my triple extension or anything along those lines. So like, I respect that, but there's still like a level of, I think it's almost primal that you respect the size and the sport, and like, then the body keeps the score. So like, I know that guys put in the work, because like, muscles aren't an accident. Strength's not an accident. Like, some people are a little more genetically gifted for it, but like those triceps,
you can tell if a guy works. You can tell if a guy is doing it. And like, if you're a kid, like, you came here to play football, right? You didn't come here to be the best workout guy in the world, right? So we're teaching guys like, training is an asset to help prolong your career, accentuate your career, all those things. But how can I tell you as that kid how important this is and what it can do for you and all that? If you look at me and you're like, well, if it's that important, why don't you do it? Come on. Like, at that point, like, I'm giving you bullshit. It's false words. It's do as I say, not as I do. And I'm like, you can't lead like that. And even if you do, like, as we all, I'm 44 now, and like, as time goes, there'll probably some things that I'm not as good at as I used to be, or maybe I'll reach a point where there's certain things I just can't do. Well, at that point, damn, I better be good enough at what I do to still find a way to train and to be in shape and to do those things, to be able to work around those things. Plus, by doing it, man, I've learned more by doing it to teach my guys ever than I have reading out of a book or listen to a clinic or anything else. Hey, yeah, my back's been fucked up. Hey, here's some things that helped me work through it. Here's what I did to maintain it after the fact. Oh, coach, that helped. All right, good, man. Like, and I wouldn't have known that unless I'd been through it, and that's important. Just like, like when our interns come in who are young guys with not a lot of experience, especially guys who maybe didn't play college football, like, they train off the same card our guys train off of. And our guys know that. So that at least helps if they look at this guy like, man, this guy's a year older than I am. He didn't play this game. Well, I can help give that intern a little bit of street credibility, because at least my guys know this dude ran the same sprints yesterday that I'm about to run today. This guy squatted on Friday just like I'm going to squat on Friday, and that helps those guys a little bit. And that also helps just the facilitation of the workout. There's plenty of times those guys will train off the card and be like, hey, coach, when we got to these two movements, like, I think with the big group, like, we're gonna get bogged down here just because of numbers or whatever, so by them doing it ahead of time, maybe we can make a couple alterations to help it flow smoother, or simply on the fly, they've been through it, they've done it, they knew, like, hey, about the time this cluster ends on bench day, we better get this stuff moved because that's where they're going next. So there's some operational stuff that helps us, but really though, it's to help the learning process of our guys, one, to understand better what we do and why we do it, but also lets them, when they open their mouth and try to coach these kids and learn how to be coaches, they do have a little bit of credibility behind it, because they're actively doing it.
No, yeah, that's perfect. And like, obviously it's troubleshooting for you potentially in the future, since they're already going through it. But like, you're, again, like, I think a massive part of leadership is like getting guys experience, like not like micromanaging or like anything along those lines. Like you want your people to experience everything. So they, again, experience taught you how to fix a back problem or like, cause I'm the same way. Like majority of my knowledge in my head was just trial and error or Dr. Serrano or somebody doing something on me different. And then I just went down the rabbit hole and was able to fix and apply or remedy. And then now I have different options and solutions for people. But that's a great form of leadership as well, as the ability to give people experience. And because like that's again teaching them how to lead through the thing they already went through, and just the absorption of the information too. I like how you format everything.
Yeah, it's just try to keep just a view of like what's going to work, like what, like trust me, there's a countless list of coaches out there that are smarter than me, they're more innovative than I am, that are a lot more of everything than I am. The one thing that I will stand on, I feel pretty damn confident myself in, is the common sense approach to what is going to work. Whether that be programming, whether that be trying to build a locker room culture, whatever that may be. Like I feel solid in those areas, and that's probably what I'm most confident in of what we do here. You know, even just simple stuff like with my staff. Like if I'm an ego-driven head guy and I'm like, this program's my program, and without me, this doesn't work, and whatever else, like I'm not helping my staff achieve their goals of being head guys, right? The only reason I'm in the position I'm in is because I worked for a guy that put me in positions to be out front, to have ownership of things. Well, if you have ownership as an assistant, now you're a little more bought in. You got a little more skin in the game. You're a little more motivated. You're not just, head man shows up, puts the work on your desk, says, hey, this is what we're doing. It's not very motivating, right? I'm only so bought in. At that point, I'm just a guy doing a job. But now, like, if I've had my hand in what we put on that paper, what that program's going to be, if coach has put me out in front to be the leader of certain things that we do, if I have certain aspects of the program that I'm programming, if I have certain roles for the guys where I'm the guy in front, it's my voice they're hearing. Well, guess what? Those are leadership reps, just like I get for the guys. And then our football staff upstairs, all those guys that aspire to be head coaches someday, they see my guys operating the roles that they want their head guy to do. So now that guy's on their radar for when their moment comes to be a head guy. Hopefully they're coming down here to one of my guys' offices and closing the door and talking about the next step with them. But if I don't put them in that position, that's never going to happen. Or if it does, my guy won't be ready for that moment when it does come. So, that's part of my responsibility too, is for my guys that bust their ass for me, is to put them in positions for them to achieve their goals, not ride on their shoulders to live out mine.
Dude, that's such a pure form of leadership there, because that's heart, no ego. It's not like the try and bat off the dogs that are biting at your heels for your position or anything like that. That's really, I think that's special. Like, I don't think that happens at every place, because like sometimes, like if the support's not there, if it's put it on the desk, or like I speak, you guys listen, you can give some feedback, but it doesn't show up on the paper ever and things like that. Like it gets disheartening. And like, I've even been in scenarios where the assistant strength coaches are like undercutting the head strength coach about the program and things like that. And it's just, it cripples culture. So right. I think it does. And like, just wanting the best for your guys to be head guys, or like to like show them capabilities to the coaches that are coordinators and things like that. Dude, that's so damn cool.
I just feel like I was able to, achieve major like milestones that I had goals I'd set for myself in my career because I got put in those situations. And it's different. I wasn't like a guy that was super young in the business that fell into a head job really early, just right place, right time, and shit, here we go. Like I was an assistant for a long time, and I worked for a lot of different bosses, and like I got to see it done a lot of different ways. I learned a ton of what to do, a ton of what not to do. I knew what motivated me as an assistant. I knew when I wasn't motivated as an assistant. So once I got the chance to like, this is my staff, like I had a very like clear idea in my head of like how I needed to treat those guys, of the positions I needed to put them in to keep them motivated. Because I'll tell you this, hiring people sucks, right? Well, if I don't build a good work environment here, I'm going to have to hire people over and over and over again. I've been lucky. My time in Memphis, like I didn't have to hire hardly anybody. I kept the same staff a majority of the time. I haven't had to hire a single person here other than my initial staff, and it's a little bit different here because you're at a place like Florida State. If we do this right, every one of these guys can achieve every one of the professional goals right here from this office, and so I should be able to keep a staff. Plus, we're in a situation financially here where I can put those guys in spots where not every job is a lateral move. It takes a big step to go up from where they're at. And that helps a ton too. But those things happen because these four guys are worth it.
Yeah, we had a couple conversations about it at Summer Strong, but how'd you come by your staff? I know you had a cool little filtration process to get your guys.
Yeah, so man, so I knew coming from Memphis, coming here, like, yeah, I keep a kind of a realistic view on the whole coaching thing, right? Once you hit like that, whatever that big job is, and to me, this is that big job. That means you're either going to win here and stay a hell of a long time, or you're going to get fired and you're probably going to take potentially a very big step back down. So I'm like, man, I have one chance only to do this right. And the thing is, when I got this job, I'm sure this, it was different. My staff at Memphis was one of my guys was leaving. His wife had just finished med school, so he was taking a different path. My top assistant there, he was going to get the head strength coach job there, which left us with two guys left. And I told Noah, I said, listen, I'm going to take one of these guys. I'm going to leave you one, because obviously you need a guy here too that you're going to be familiar with, that's got your back and all those things as you fill out your staff. So basically, our two guys were left there. I brought Coach Dowdy with me. He kept Coach Tokars there. And then I had three more spots. And I know there's guys out there in the business who I'm friends with, who I'm close with, that probably fully expected the phone to ring and to come with. I learned a long time ago, like, it's easy to hire friends, right? It's easy to hire guys you're familiar with because there's comfortability there. But just because I'm comfortable with a guy, because I know him, does that make him a better coach and a better fit for where this situation is going to be than a guy that maybe I don't know? And so with Darian Jones on my staff, I was actually already in the process of hiring him at Memphis to replace Coach Scott that left. And then said, he was at Incarnate Word in San Antonio, working for Coach Huth down there. And, he was in like mid-hiring process, right? So you're at that point where like, okay, is this going to happen? Is this not going to happen? Could it fall through? You're at like that super stressed out point. And I had to call him, I'm like, DJ, you're going to have to hang tight. I said, everything's good. I said, there's stuff going on. I'm going to call, I got just hang tight for like a week. So I'm sure he's like,
which is tough to hear. Yeah, that's tough on the board.
Yeah, no doubt. And I hated putting that in that situation because we only knew each other based on a really strong recommendation and then like a string of phone conversations and texts and stuff like that. But I knew for the role there that he was going to be a great fit for us. And I wasn't going to, just because we were coming here, pull the plug on that, because I really, really like some of the things I knew he was going to be able to bring to the table. But I also couldn't tell him what was going on yet. So I'm like, dude, just hang tight. So I was able to call him like a week later, like, hey, I'm still hiring you, except you're not going to Memphis. You're going to Florida State. Your salary is not that. Your salary is this. Fuck, let's go.
Yeah, that's right.
And so then I had two more spots to fill. So with Tom Farniak, so he's from South Dakota as well. So there's only so many of us out there. But I actually knew Tom because we at Arizona State, we recruited his older brother. And so I knew of their family. And then, Tom, young coach, doing the proactive things I think you need to do to try to get yourself in the door in this business. When he was in between jobs, going from Buffalo down to Louisiana Tech, he stopped in Memphis, stayed with us for a day, kind of helped jump in and coach some groups, just learning, soaking it up and whatnot. And then just a guy that I'd stayed in touch with. He went from Louisiana Tech out to Stanford. And so when this happened, he was a guy that I reached out to because I'd actually considered hiring him the year before because I thought I was going to lose my top assistant at Memphis. So I was going to reach out to him regardless. It just happened a year later in a different situation. And I knew we needed a guy with some familiarity in sports science stuff because we didn't have a true sports science guy here yet. And I knew he was doing that at Stanford. And knew that just cultural fit, he was going to be a hell of a lot happier here than he was on the West Coast. So I was able to call him, get him on board. And then finally for Coach Coleman, for Lanier, he had been at Ole Miss. I knew who he was. I didn't know him at all. Really, really strong recommendation was brought to me by a guy who is very, very smart, but also super critical, super opinionated, probably hates most people. And he's like, calling me, he's like, you have to hire Lanier. And like, he's like gushing about this guy. I'm like, man, I've never heard you talk like this in my life. I'm like, this is definitely worth the phone call. So called Lanier. He came up from Oxford up to Memphis, little ducked off spot down the street from work, had some lunch, had a couple beers, couple hour conversation, just not an interview, man, just hanging out with people. Cause like, yeah, what you know is important, but man, I got to be able to evaluate who are you as a man? What kind of person are you? Can I work with you every day? More importantly, I'll probably talk a lot because I want you to know what you're getting yourself into working with me and for me as well. And as soon as he left, I'm like, that's my guy. I got to get that guy in. So then he was able to hire him as well. And then so that brought together the five of us here, and so coming here to what I feel is like my one shot to do it right job. I hired three guys I'd never worked with one day in my life.
That's so damn cool. But I guess, I mean, you're trusting yourself, but the intention there, like I'm a big believer that like, if you put meaning on everything and like how you, obviously you knew how you were treated as an assistant in good and bad scenarios, like you knew that, like, again, you don't need yes men. So like going out and getting uncomfortable and having the conversation, and then judging quickly based on, again, your character, judging another human's character on top of their mind for the sport and the science behind it. Dude, it sounds like it's working out for you.
No, it's been awesome. And going through, we get here like right before COVID hits, and like everything that followed after that year, and trying to build this program from the ground up. And it like, trust me, it has not been an easy process. A lot of times it's not been a fun process, but the number one thing that's kept everybody in it and kept everybody motivated is the staff down here. Like, these 4 guys that I work with every day are the sole reason why we're in the spot we're in right now, and especially why I'm in the spot I'm in right now, even just emotionally about what we're doing, because like, we all kept each other up. I mean, we've been through the couple of the hardest, as far as wins and losses go, man, like a couple of the hardest seasons I've ever been part of in my entire life of football. Like, you get spoiled winning, right?
Yeah.
And you
guaranteed.
go through you go through tough times. It's hard, so if you got some guys around you that helps, where you can put that aside and know what you're actually trying to work for and what you're trying to get every day, and keep that goal in mind, and then be able to convey that to the kids who are going through hard times too, going through transition, going through the same rough seasons we're going through this, twice as much scrutiny on social media and those things, to be able to convey the consistency and the plan and the big picture that you're working towards every day. Like, that's where you have a chance to have success, is when you can put together a staff that can do that in those times.
Yeah. And then, so now going into your 3rd season, and obviously, just kind of looking back, I guess, on like doing some hindsight, like, obviously you kind of redid the foundation of your entire culture of the players and that kind of thing. What are you doing different now this 3rd year than you were that 1st year? Obviously COVID is a shit show in and of itself for, again, staff and spacing and all that bullshit. But as far as like, what have you learned in these 3 years that like has made you a better coach and has you excited about this upcoming season?
Some of it is, when we first got here, we ran a really, really like meat and potatoes program, which, to be honest, even my advanced programs, most people probably look at, that's probably still pretty meat and potatoes, but like, it's what I believe in. But it's as the guys, like, training age has increased now over the last 2 years. We've had a lot of the same guys, and you see guys starting to really, really progress in the program. Now it starts to open the door of like, hey, there's some things we have to change to continue to progress. We're not gonna be able to keep doing what we've done to get better. So it's been fun to like, what are the appropriate next steps to take? And we were able to hire a director of sports science from Jacksonville Jaguars, Jackson Schaefer, who's been able to help give us a really good perspective on some of the things we're doing, how some things we're doing actually fit really well, how we can tweak some of the other things we're doing to fit better, some practice structure things, camp calendars, some stuff like that. It's going to help us a ton going forward. And with the way our guys have understood, the approach to work and how to not being worried about the challenge laid out in front of them. Not like, okay, I'm running this first rep, but like, I'm going to temper myself, hold back, because I know what's coming. We're at the point now where those guys understand, like, go. You know what I mean? It's like more of like a bullet out of the gun mentality. Like, the bullet doesn't decide how fast it goes or where it goes. It just knows the trigger was pulled, so it goes. And this team is starting to approach work and approach practice in that fashion, which is great, because now that you can do some different things training wise. We're like, I'm basing what we're doing off of how you're going to do it, and that's what's going to give us the effect of this training that we want. You know what I mean? Like, this can be hard, not because of the giant volume of work I put on you. This would be hard because of the effort you put into it. Well, if I can count on that, then we can program quite a bit differently. Because otherwise, like, well, to get the workout, we're going to have to do a lot. Well, I know now our guys will approach it with an intensity and effort that I'm going to get it out of that. And so like that's been fun to be able to get to that point, because man, it's so much fun to see guys go, to see them approach it that way.
Dude, that's truly incredible, just because me and Nate Ebner, one of my training partners, 10-year NFL vet kind of guy, we always kind of have that communication where like we're the guys, like at a certain point in our careers, obviously we were the goers, and then like the last 3 reps, you see these other guys start to catch up, or they go max effort on the last rep. And like, that's the opposite of leadership, or like, and then they'll want to chirp after and that kind of thing. How did you convey that to the players? Like cause like that takes such a, like, cause I think that's like, if you can get that out of your players, a massively effective way of training, because you know exactly what you're getting. Like if effort is a constant and not a variable, like that makes your life so much fucking easier. And I think that's So did you actually communicate that to the guys where it's like,
yes,
okay,
there's no doubt. It takes consistent message, consistent communication. And then when it is done right, they got to know it's done right. Because I think sometimes as coaches, like, you have this high standard, what you want the guys to be. So when you see them display to do it, you're like, okay, good, they're doing what you're supposed to do. You know what I mean? I focus on the ones that aren't. Well, man, sometimes like that's your biggest missed moment of coaching, is to when it's done right, you need to celebrate that and enforce that and champion that. Because now a guy knows you have a guy who did it right just by accident or just because that's how he happened to do it. But now he's like, oh shit, that's the standard. Okay, cool. Well, man, everybody likes getting that good feedback, right? Well, if I'm the guy next to him and saw what he did and I didn't do that, I'm seeing how he's being treated. I'm like, I can do that. Okay, do that. And then it's the consistent message of what the work needs to look like and what the effort needs to look like. And then when it looks like that, good, we did what we were supposed to do. We can move on now. I know you could run 10 more reps of that. I don't need to see it because I know you can do it because of how you did it. Well, once guys feed into that, sometimes guys, they get it because of this is what coach wants. This is what we need to do. And, there's gonna be guys who aren't quite there yet, but they're like, well, if I go really hard, I'm not gonna have to do as much. Okay, I'll just go really hard so I don't do as much. Guess what? That's still a win. I'm getting what I want.
I was gonna say.
And then the other guys see that, and that just becomes the culture, and guys will go that way. And it's taken a lot to get there, but it's just in the daily messaging and the consistency of your expectations and clearly laying out for guys what it is you need, and more importantly, what it is they need.
But that's what's got you juiced up right now about the guys. Like you've established that standard, like celebrated it, supported it. Yeah,
dude, I'm telling you, this summer's been fucking fun. Like these kids are kicking ass, and you saw it. They trained really well last year during the season. We saw some change, right? And then as we got into the winter program, you start seeing more and more often. Man, that was good, man. Did you guys see what happened today, man? That was cool. And you start seeing it more and more. But you're still like, when's the other shoe gonna drop? Is this real? Is this actually progress and change, or are we trying to rose-colored glasses this, and this isn't really what's happening? Man, so spring ball was tremendous. The way they approach practice, as a strength coach, you see things happen in workouts. Like, God, I hope this carries over the field. So I'm telling coach this, and this about how awesome they are. God, they better do this with a helmet on their head. Well, you saw it in spring ball. It's like, all right, man, that's a big building block, right? You come into the summer, like, all right, man, can we ride this wave? Can we keep pushing this? And you see it start happening day one. Our guys came back. 90% of our team came back a week early to start summer because the calendar is weird this year. So we didn't officially start till a Thursday. We had 90% of our guys here on that Monday. And of the guys we didn't have, most of them I knew already ahead of time had a family vacation that had already been booked or whatever it may be. That alone, before we even ever stepped on the field or touched our hands on a bar, it was different. And then, that first week's awesome. You keep building on that. You keep putting those guys in difficult situations, seeing how they handle it, see how they respond to the adversity, see the positive stuff, see guys who have always been just at the edge of the radar guys suddenly start to push and excel and be that every day and not just sometimes. And the way it's built and it's been awesome. You've seen so many things start to happen. Now, once again, we get to the end of the summer and I'm like, oh, we got to see this. We got to see this when it matters.
Yeah.
None of this at all matters unless when they cross those white lines, you see the same qualities. And I believe and trust in these guys right now that is what we're going to see.
Yeah. The consistency, I think consistency kills. Consistency is the primary component in any program and any, again, repetition of communication, leadership, all those things. And if you've gotten that for X amount of time, now it's just compound interest. And that's why you see who knows, Malcolm Gladwellian tipping points on anything. But as long as the needle's moving, dude, that hypes me up whenever I'm coaching. It's got to hype you up when you're coaching 127 humans.
It's awesome to see. I always look at it just steady flowing water carve the Grand Canyon. You know what I mean? And in that consistency, whether it be in your own training, whether it be in your coaching style, whether it be in your approach to just life, your family, whatever, that ultimately is what it's all about. Because if you can be that, all those goals and all those things you have set for you in those giant moments are going to happen with the consistency. It doesn't happen with big motivation that wanes, right? It happens with never too high, never too low at all times.
Yeah, everybody's even keel. Everybody's controlling their state, balling. Yeah, that's the way to roll. As far as the push into obviously the new era of training and those kind of things, because I'm a believer like you, where obviously I enjoy going down on these rabbit holes. I don't have to train for football anymore, so I don't have to do my meat and potatoes, because I had my own version of meat and potatoes that tried and tested for me. I'll never variate. Like I still do them, even though I do powerlifting or whatever I'm doing. But in the push into the tech and the wearables and FMS and all these things, what have you applied, or what have you found like as the most functional, or like the most translation from the weight room to the field now?
As far as like some of the tech stuff goes, like we'll use some velocity based training stuff, and to be honest, I'll be really honest, I don't do a super deep dive into it. Outside of like certain parameters, I'll use it to like forecast more so than I do in the moment. And then along with that, though, a lot of times you bring whatever, I don't care whether you use Tendo or Gym Aware or Rep One or whatever you may use, just seeing that number will drive intent. Well, if I can use the number to drive intent with guys, then we're winning. You know what I mean? And then I can use the number to guide however we see fit. But so like that stuff's always been good, and that stuff that's been around for a long time. Implement like the Nord board, like Nordic hamstrings, always a staple exercise for us year round. Multiple exposures a week to it and stuff. But then be able to implement the Nord board and get that data back out of that's helped us a ton. Be able to like red flag some potential issues and get a guy into some more aggressive treatment, or maybe even some corrective stuff in his training to try to head off issues before they become issues. With all the catapult stuff and using that to like guide your coach's eye a little bit. You still got to trust what you see. You still know that at the end of the day, it takes what it takes. But if that can help guide us to do things a little bit smarter, I always talk about it's like, yes, you have all this data and all these metrics and stuff now you can look at for practice or a training session. It's still the same thing, right? It's just the difference is without the technology, you're watching the game on a Sunday on a old style color tube TV. Like you see the players and see the numbers, and that's that. Versus with all the sports science stuff, now you're watching it on a 70-inch LED, and I can read a guy's tattoos. It just gives me more details and a more clear picture of what I already knew was going on. And so then I can make a couple changes as see fit. And that's been huge for us. And then it's just being willing to respond when you have that information. Because if you have that information, you do nothing with it. Well, then why the hell do you have the information in the first place? So for us, it's been like I said, keeping our actionable points on the things we're going to do. Like I'm not gonna track something or measure something if I'm not going to do something with it eventually, right? And so that's been the big stuff for us. And then just bringing in, like I said, guys with some different perspective and points of view on some of that stuff. But at the end of the day, man, training's training, man. We're never going to get very far away from a barbell. We're gonna sprint. We're gonna jump. We're gonna lift heavy. Some of those things are musts, because at the end of the day, like I'm not training NFL guys. I'm training guys who are still trying to build the machine that is going to hopefully get them to the NFL. It's a little bit different once you've built that machine. Then you're going to maintain that machine in a different way. You're going to make tweaks to that machine in different ways. Well, that's not where we're at in the case of most of our guys. We're trying to develop and build that machine to get them to that point to then do that, And that's the mistake I think a lot of young guys will make sometimes in their training. They'll watch their NFL guys and do, well, so-and-so, he does that. Well, he does that now. How many years has he been at that level? What did he do to get to there? Because I promise you that guy has not done 10 years of that to get there. That is what he's doing now. Plus, for these guys, we talk to some of my guys who are in the league now, have been there for a while, or guys are aspiring to get there to start to get it. It's like, if I say I want to go play in the NFL, I want to go play 5, 6, 7, 10 years. Well, I'm also saying training to be part of my life for a really long time. Well, you're going to do some different things as you get later into your training career, simply just to keep you motivated and keep you fresh and give you new shit to do. You're not going to keep going and do the same stuff you did in college your entire career. You'll get sick of it. You'll get burned out on it. It's not going to work for you anymore. Whatever the reason may be, you need some new stuff just to keep you engaged, especially when you're a guy where like my passion is playing ball, not training. I can go do the same workout forever because my passion is training, right?
Yeah.
Those guys is different. The training's a tool to help them be great at the sport that they are passionate about, the reason they're out there. So in their careers, they're bring times they're going to go do different things and seek out different things and chase new edges because they've signed up to train to be part of their life for as long as they're playing that game.
Yeah, that's a really cool way to communicate it. And then even your stance on, because I'm not like I in my eyes, like it's the wearables and the tech are like good for identifying problems, but you don't have to keep that stimulus coming in as like a stressor and that kind of thing. But I think like the more I hear about it, like I haven't done a lot of velocity based training myself, but like the more I think about it, it's a great gauge, but it's also like in the realm of like teaching effort. I feel like that's a fun metric to understand, like what is 100% or And it's the same as like you're feeding 127 competitive young high testosterone men where it's like, okay, let's compete. And like now like that you're forcing adaptation through competition and they have something tangible. And like that's enough. It doesn't have to be massive equations to contort everything. It's like, okay, as long as effort's the control, as long as effort's the standard, like, and I just think that moves the needle faster than all the tinkering and whatever. Oh, hold on, let me adjust your inside high ankle or whatever it ends up being, that kind of thing. I just think I think that all that stuff's fun. I think everything has its purpose, but also when like, dude, training 127 kids, one, like obviously you guys have that dynamite new weight room and those kind of things, but like, dude, and that's why the trust of your staff is massive too. Like I think what you've built and what you're doing is dynamite, and I don't want to wait too much to take up too much more of your time. But you still have a few minutes? Or are you good?
Yeah, man. No, absolutely. No, we're wrapped up for today, man. So I definitely have time. I definitely have time.
Yeah, that's because I always like to, because like my education into this world is still new. And like I find myself being I get critical of like the CSCS sometimes, and I know you've been in the world for a while, and obviously your resume is out there too as far as like the NCA or NSCA stuff as well, and then obviously I'm sure you've been down some other rabbit holes, and regardless, like it sounds like a lot of what you've learned is from experience too. But like as far as like the certifications world, like what do you recommend? What held the most value for you? What changed your perspective? Anything like that?
I think for the certification piece, and listen, I'm going to speak really narrow to just as it applies to a college strength coach. That's my background. That's my world. That's whatever.
Perfect.
It's a necessity, right? Like, I don't think you're going to learn anything in taking those tests. It's going to be like, oh, I'm a better coach because I learned this from the Essentials book. I really don't think that's going to happen, right? In fact, the biggest advice that not just I give guys, but everybody even gave me when I would take those tests is like, you have to forget everything you know about this. And you have to give them what's in the book to pass the test. Whether you agree, whether you disagree, whatever it may be. Yeah, there's some good, they do a good job breaking down some of the science stuff. But at the end of the day, none of my kids have ever asked me about their Krebs cycle.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but what it is though, there's some insurance and liability and credibility and stuff. It's important to have that, at the end of the day, whether it, in recruiting, I want you to send your son here and put his career and his safety in my hands. Okay. Well, I can tell you, I've been doing this for 20 plus years. That's why I should be able to do it. Well, it does help if I can say like, I'm certified through the, NSCA, through the CSCCA. I'm a master strength and conditioning coach. Well, there's some comfortability that at least you've checked those boxes, right? And for young guys getting in, it's like, listen, like not having the cert can keep you from getting a job. You might be at a place where like, like I've been lucky at a place where I've been able to hire a guy who maybe isn't certified if he gets his cert within his first like 6 months of employment or whatever. And then there's some, some rules that went along with it, whatever. But there's some places they can't consider you bringing in, even as an intern, unless you're certified. So like you have to get that done because you might have the right network and the right connection to go get a job. We all know how hard that is. And they're like, oh wait, you don't have your certification. Oh, shit, man, I'm sorry. Bro, you better go get that job. Getting that cert's never going to help you get a job. It can definitely keep you from getting a job though. Yeah, so for me, it's a must. I think that's something you got to go do. And I think anytime you can pick up continuing education, like all my guys, like we have a unique thing here at Florida State. We actually have a master's certificate program in coaching. And all my guys and my staff just got in that program this summer. So all my guys right now, my staff are currently getting their masters in coaching. Well, that's cool, man. Like when you talk like recruiting or whatever, like that's an awesome thing to be able to say. Like these guys care so much about this. You have guys who've all been in this business for, some of these guys 10 years who are going back and going to school and taking classes to get a master's in coaching. All right, that's awesome. You should definitely do that. Plus, like if you can take advantage of getting free education while you're at the university, man, by all means do it. Or if you're at a place where they'll pay for your certifications, get every certification you can possibly get because why would you not? But I do think those big ones, those are just a necessity. You got to go do them. If you don't do them, you're probably cut yourself short at some point in your career. You're running into problems because you don't, or God forbid, you ever get a bad situation in a training session with a kid and the kid goes down, whether it be something traumatic or whether it just be an injury that happens. And you don't have that, you are a deep shit if that ever goes to litigation. You know what I mean? So you better have that on your side at the very least.
I got you. Yeah, but part of your paying your dues and part of covering your bases. But like, it's the same thing. Like, you look at whatever doctorate somebody has, it doesn't mean their experience applies to the X, Y, and Z person, that kind of deal. Yeah. I just, I'm just trying to sort out kind of my next direction as far as like what do I want to learn? The CSCS did that, and then like the West Side Barbell. So now what's next? And I didn't know if you had any favorites in that world, like stuff that you've read or people's strength stuff that you favor.
Not really as far as the certification stuff goes, not necessarily. As far as reading what's out there, I'll try to keep up on that stuff, but man, I think a lot of the wealth of information that's out there now is so huge. There's so much. And you got now where there's entire books and they're written on the minutia of training. But if you're coming into this now, I'm kind of talking about our young guys now who are in their first year or two in the business or whatever, there's so much that you can get just paralyzed by all that information. And you'll spend a ton of time in this book and this book and this book. Well, all those books are referring to this much of training. But the thing is, there's so much information out there and so much has been written about what's left to write about, the minutia, right? And I'll tell my guys, you got to go back. You have to go back to when there wasn't as much information and read that stuff that's out there, because it's a little more meaty. It's maybe a little more heavy hitting. I remember back in the day, early on getting in this, the internet was not the internet then that it is now. So I used to sit around Friday mornings, wait for Elite Fitness to drop those 5 or 6 articles that they put out every Friday, because that was your source of new information for the week. And I'd print those all out. I'd keep them with me. And I'd be in the bathroom at work taking articles with me, because that was my chance to try to digest information within my schedule, and, we're going to the library and getting the old Soviet sports review and reading all that kind of stuff. Because that was about the big shit on training. And if you have that knowledge base of that stuff, the stuff you're reading now that's about the minutia makes way more sense. It's way more applicable. And so now you're building your program around those time-tested, standards of training. And now when you're reading the new stuff, now you know where that can fit in. But if you don't have those pillars and you're trying to build your pillars out of just new information that's written about small scope things, I don't know how strong your pillars are going to be. I think you can run a better program if you have that base of information from the past as it applies to the things that are being researched now and developed now, and then now bringing the technology to those things.
No, I love that, because that's what I've heard from most of the people that I get my information from, like Dr. Strano and Dylan in that realm. Dr. Dylan Seeley, who's the last podcast, but I ask them for book recommendations all the time, and Strano will airdrop me multiple books and that kind of thing. But the majority of the books are 50s to the 70s, or Dylan goes back to the Soviet era. Same with Dr. Serrano and anything strength related. And then but there's nothing in this century really that I've gotten from them. So it's just it intrigues me that that's how powerful the foundation is, and we don't have to constantly reinvent the wheel. And again, that's enough. And it doesn't have to be there. It doesn't always have to be another edge out there. It's mastering the fundamentals, or mastering whatever has been proven to work, tried and tested, true. Yeah.
Those things worked forever ago, and they will continue to work forever. Right. And if you have that down and you understand that base, understand that part of training, that's where you can make your shit unique and make what you do special, make what you do that much more effective, when then you can now look at the new things that are happening now and where does this fit into what we do? How can I maybe make some alterations to what we do and stick to what it is that we are, but bring some of these new, aspects into this? And that's where you can really start to see your program take off. But I really don't think you can do that without understanding the other stuff. And you also can't just replicate what you've read. So you got so many people well, I read this program, and what do you do to your team? Well, I do that program. Well, that program is written for a really, really specific,
sect,
people at a certain time. Yeah. And you sit all the time and this isn't a knock by any means, but you look at conjugate training, right? And you go back in college strength conditioning X amount of years, and you'd have programs like We Are West Side. We do the West Side program with our football team. Okay, but it's there's a lot of those tools on conjugate that work and work well, and you've experienced that yourself, right? But to say that is the program that you're going to run to get you guys ready for football, that program is written for Chuck Vogelpohl to squat 1,200 pounds. You're talking about geared powerlifters who their entire lives revolved around that West Side barbell gym. That program is for those guys in that setting. You can't just take that program and say, well, that's my program with my guys because it worked well there, it worked well for us. No, that's bad program. It's bad coaching. It's short-sighted. You're not really looking at it. But what can you take from that program that is applicable to your guys? You know, like Joe Ken used to talk about all the time, you know, like an athletic based program. He's like, if you want to train a power lifter, there's a protocol for that. You want to train an Olympic lifter, there's a protocol for that. You want a guy to do a bodybuilding show, there's a protocol for that. He goes, there's no protocol for training an athlete. He goes, that's where it's your job to find all these little bits and pieces out of all those things to put together what you feel is the best package to prepare your athletes. So like someone could say, well, you guys like a powerlifting program? Like, yes and no. Are you guys a bodybuilding program? Yes and no. We're all those things and we're none of those things. You know, because it's been taking things out of here and there and taking things from different coaches and then applying them and modifying them to fit your system at your time for your guys. And even stuff that I did, whatever, you know, year 2, year 3 at Memphis, I'm not going to do that here because I was a different group of guys under a different circumstance at that time than where we're at now. Just like if I write whatever, if I have my summer program this year, I feel like, man, that's the best summer program we ever ran. I'm not going to go run that same program again next year because we're going to have different guys with different needs next year. And hopefully I'm going to learn some shit between now and then too, and I'll be better at what I do by then. And I'll look back at last year's program like, oh God, that's kind of cringy that we did that, you know, because I'm better now, you know, and that's what I hope to be. I don't ever want to be that guy that rolls that same program out, you know, all the time because like I better learn, I better progress, I better be in tune enough with my guys to know the shit is changing. At the same time, there's certain things that are tried and true that will always be there, you know?
No, that's strong self-awareness. And I believe the same thing where like, if I'm at 10 years from now, if I'm still doing the same thing, like I wasted 10 years in essence, like it's not that's not the progress that's not the measure marker of that. And like, there is the foundational aspect of it, but it's funny how you describe it. Cause it sounds like an art form, like, cause you're truly picking and pulling the pieces that, like you've experienced through your perspective and created and felt, and again, like you've learned about, and now you get to apply it and you get to see it in action. It's such a cool art form. And then it's a cool experiment. Cause like all life's like an experiment, but the cool part of that is that I hear art when you describe how you put together your workouts.
That's why I started smiling, man. It's awesome you said that because that was one of the earliest things I learned about programming. So when I got to UNLV, when I got into like the paid position there, I had like 5 sports plus I was helping with everything, right? And that's the first time I'd ever like programmed for teams. And I think every young coach, first time, like, hey, you're writing this program, you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah,
I haven't done this, you know? And so like I'm working on stuff and like Mark's helping me and I'm asking a lot of questions. And he told me this is the one thing that's probably maybe the biggest learning moment takeaway from my entire time working with him was he's like, writing your program is an art. He goes, yes, you have to understand certain scientific principles that will make sure your program works. But he goes, how you put it together and the way you do what you do, that's an art. And that's something I've always been at the forefront of, like how we do what we do is at the end of the day, it is an art to it. And that's why you can't just replicate somebody else's program because it's no longer art. That was art for them. It doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Yeah, I think the delivery of the program's massive too. Like same as you're holding standards, same as you're developing leadership alongside this programming, like that can probably even get included into like who's at each rack or like, again, like even the levels of strength at each racks. And like, that's like, and then now that's like the fine strokes of the painting, you know, where it's like, that's truly how you, again, hopefully make a masterpiece.
Yeah, hopefully that's what we're trying to do anyways. That's what we're trying to do. It doesn't always look like that, but that's the overall goal, what we're shooting for every day. So
fuck yeah, dude. I think that's an awesome place to end it, dude. I wish you the best in your art form. And then obviously, dude, I love how you handle your business with like the way you approach your own personal training, how you developed your culture, man. I'm a big fan of Florida State now just because of you. So I'll be watching.
Brother, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll be watching the boys, but dude, thank you for your time. And then where can people find you?
Easy to find. Every social media, I'm just at Coach Storms. Probably not on Twitter. Like I have that account. There's a following. I rarely touch it. But I'm easy to find on Instagram. I try to respond to everything. If you reach out, I will reply. I just remember being early on in this business, trying to reach out to coaches all the time, whether it be just for information or for a job or for whatever, and just never anything back. And I was like, God, that fucking sucks. You know what I mean? And I always feel like it's kind of part of my role to like help give back or to communicate. And like, I share a lot of stuff. And to be honest, I share a lot because honestly, I'm pretty selfish. And so I figure if I can share enough, at some point, somebody be like, hey, I looked at what you're doing. And like, have you thought about doing it this way? Or there's a better way to do that. Or, hey, that fucking sucks. What are you doing? Like, if I share enough, somebody will come to me with that. And guess what? That will help me. That'll make all the sharing worth it, So if you reach out, like I will reply. I got a ton of people that I know simply because of replying to stuff like that, man. I just think that's the right thing to do. So if you hit me up, at Coach Storms on Instagram, there, and then that's pretty easy to find.
Yeah. We'll tag you up and everything too. But I think that's awesome. One of my mottos is help and support aren't yours to keep. So like, obviously we've all been helped and supported. And like, again, if people are inquiring about the training, or like, even I love the fact that you put it out with the intent that it might be criticized, and like, because I think great art divides the audience too. But like, you get constructive feedback if you put out some of the things that you believe in that might be against the grain and things like that. And I think that's where real like constructive criticism breeds adaptation and growth and learning. So again, same thing. I like how you handle business.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
Easy. Well, be well. Thank you for hopping on.
Yeah, dude, enjoy the rest of your vacation.
Yeah, appreciate you. Bye.